He's back. He's back. The tribal chief.
Taking it all. Oh, I mean, the original.
Not that tribal chief.
The original tribal chief.
You guys know on this podcast, we are Cody Rhodes fanboys. He hangs up in the wall. We have all the WrestleMania 40 merch as we were there to see the story finish. But the story continues. And in this chapter of the story, and on this episode of the story continues cast episode 11, we're going to talk about the aftermath of SummerSlam, which indeed, as you saw, typically we would start with the woe, but today we just had to make an exception and acknowledge the true tribal. That's a tongue twister because you
say the original.
Tribal.
It's the original tribal chief.
The OG, which we have to analyze what his shirt said, but the OG tribal chief is back. Roman Reigns. It was a great pay-per-view. For some context, this podcast is coming out a little late because Knight and I actually just got back from an N10 wedding out in Buffalo, where we actually watched the pay-per-view together, very scuffed on an iPad. It was the only way. Hotel TVs do not cooperate with Peacock and Roku's and whatnot. But we watched it. We watched it in bits and pieces. There was a lot of stories that happened at this trip, but those are stories for other podcasts and other times. We watched SummerSlam. I enjoyed it. What were your initial thoughts? What do you think about it? And, before we dive into the matches and whatnot, what was the overall vibe? Like, how do you think Triple H cooked with the SummerSlam production?
Well, of course, SummerSlam, they always market it as the biggest party of the summer for wrestling, for WWE. And absolutely correct, I agree. This match card was very much stacked. Someone was saying that this was probably better than this could have been a WrestleMania at this point.
Yep.
Like, this could have been any WrestleMania card. This year, maybe a little bit. I know there are 2 nights for this year's WrestleMania, but this year SummerSlam, you got one night. They had 7 matches, which already seems like a good amount of time. I believe the entirety, we checked it when we watched it at the hotel. It was about 3.5 hours. Yeah. So definitely a good amount of time. Well, some of the matches took longer than others, but we'll get to that later on. But overall, I think was a really solid lineup. I had a little notebook where I wrote down my predictions and some other stuff too. I went, I believe, 6-1 with all of my predictions. The one being just because I had no idea what the hell is going to happen, but we'll get to that later too. I just thought it was cool. I liked seeing how all these storylines that they teased that have been happening since WrestleMania are finally starting to even either conclude or ramp up even more, or finally have that big twist that we might have all known was coming or whatever. But it's cool to see it all play out. And obviously, I think the coolest part of it all was seeing Roman Reigns come back, because he hasn't been back since WrestleMania. Yep. But more on that later. Overall, I think Triple H did a great job booking this PLE. And I know, at least in this point for wrestling too, we can get into this too later on too, but if you've seen the discourse about it, the Raw storylines have been up to here. Yeah. Like, they've just been like, and even like the Raw after SummerSlam, amazing. Like, the amount of stuff that happened there too, and stuff that's gonna start happening too. SmackDown,
hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, and now, obviously Roman's back now, so could elevate something even more this Friday. But I'm glad to see that, this is a point now where this is essentially the last major big PLE of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, we have some others coming up, but like, when you usually think of the big 3, you think of SummerSlam, you think of Royal Rumble, and of course WrestleMania. So now we're basically into the latter half of the year. Already a great year so far, but you're going to start seeing some more stuff kind of starting to pick up the pace, while others are just kind of start slowing down. So overall, I think SummerSlam, real good. I enjoyed watching with you. It was cool. We were dead tired though trying to watch it. Yeah. So we actually had to watch it the next day too to finish it off. But overall, real good time.
Hell yeah. And you mentioned like what's next. SummerSlam is definitely kind of like, you have the Royal Rumble, which really builds the excitement. Then you have WrestleMania, which is like peak, and then you have SummerSlam, which is like, that's the summer event. And then it does kind of like not necessarily fall off, but more so slow down. But I know this year, it is actually the big four because there's Survivor Series. However, Survivor Series always does get overlooked. Like, you always pretty much know it's just the big three. But this year in particular, with Roman Reigns returning, I do think it's going to be a very interesting Survivor Series, because this has been something that people have been, fantasy booking and fantasy posting pictures on Twitter about, the whole Bloodline Civil War. That's what I think we're cooking and leading up to. But we'll save that talk for the main event of the show. As this is a post SummerSlam podcast, we won't spend too much time talking about each match, just because it's not the predictions, it's more just analyzing what happened. And there was more matches than we're used to. Typically we're used to the Triple H 5-match card. This was actually 7 matches, so that's why, as you said, the runtime I think was like about 3.5 hours, so that's why it was so long. But, I think one last fact before we do dive into the first match. I saw a picture where it was like the champions from WrestleMania 40 were all like blacked out, and it was just Cody Rhodes in color. Like, he's the only remaining champion from WrestleMania 40. Now that we had all the,
oh my gosh.
Now that we've had everybody lose, like, Cody's the only remaining champion from WrestleMania 40. So with that being said, quite a lot of titles changed at SummerSlam, but not in the first match of the night. So the first match of the night, they started off strong with what easily could have been a main event contender, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. Before I give my piece, what did you think of this?
The Judgment Day storyline has got to be really, really good. It's up there, especially that Wyatt 6. Same thing with the Bloodline. Same thing with Sami Zayn, all that kind of stuff. But it culminated here. And finally Rhea Ripley comes back. Glad to see she's back from her injury. That was a couple weeks ago when she did come back. It's her versus Liv. Custody of Dominic Mysterio,
yes,
part 2. No, not a ladder match, unfortunately, but I think overall, real good match. It showed the athleticism of both Rhea and Liv. Glad to see them both healthy and giving a good fight. I will say though, I did not expect Rhea to win, and I know we said we weren't really talking about predictions. But I didn't make mine because I wasn't on the last episode. But I'll do it really quickly. So I didn't expect Rhea to win. I felt like Liv was going to retain, but I feel like everyone knew that was going to happen regardless. However, what everyone was waiting to see was how is this going to affect the Judgment Day. Mm-hmm. And so a part of that is you see right during the match, Dom's there too, but Dom's like, wait a second, like just as you think that everything's going to be clean and Rhea's going to win, nope, Dom pulls the old switcheroo and actually helps support Liv Morgan, helps her win, and then at the end of it, he picks her off the ground, looks at her, and gives her a big ol' smooch on the lips.
Should have been me.
With tongue, bro. Oh my god. I wish I was him. I mean, sheesh. But anyway, but no. And you look I love how the camera did it too. Like, it shows them both kissing. You see Rhea's face just drop. She's like, oh my god. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously a big part of it too is people pointed out a couple weeks back that when Dom was yelling at Liv, I don't love you, get the fuck out of here, that type of thing. And Rhea was hugging him and kissing him and licking him. Which, by the way, how you fumble that, bro? How the hell you fumbled that? Rey Mysterio's gonna kick your ass, brother. How do you fumble a goth chick like that, bro? Come on, stupid ass. Anyway, pointed out that when Rhea was doing all that, Dom was still looking at Liv. He wasn't looking at Rhea. He wasn't giving her attention. He was just looking straight up at her. So say that what you will, but makes sense. The big heel turn, which is crazy to think about. He's already turning heel while being a heel already. Yeah. Double the heel, which I think is pretty cool. And ends up with Liv, and boom, their thing. Rhea's in shambles. She doesn't get her championship back. Damn. But overall, great match.
Hell yeah, I agree. I do think looking at this card, this was possibly the top match I was looking forward to, if not at least definitely top 2. And I think it delivered. They are gonna definitely continue feuding, especially with this double heel turn, like you said. And I also went into it, not seeing Liv losing, just because I made the point that Liv is stronger with the championship right now, and Rhea Ripley is just so popular that she doesn't really need the title. I guess my only complaint with this match is I feel like I don't know if there was a botch or if it was just poorly executed, but I feel like the Dom Mysterio turn, like I feel like he didn't have enough like impact, you know? Like I feel like it was very much like he just slid a chair in. It was like they were still just like wrestling normally. Liv happens to win, and then like you didn't even know that Dom like turned on Rhea until Liv had gotten out of the ring. Like I don't know, maybe that was like by design, but it felt a little off to me.
There's that one part too, I could be mistaken, where like he was holding back the chair from her. Or
that's true.
Like, the chair. I forgot about that too, actually. And like it's like, no, stop, you'll get disqualified. And people are like, she's like, no, let me do what I came here to do, that type of thing. So maybe that was kind of a little bit of the start of it, but you're right. Like nothing really happened until she won, and then she got out of the ring. So that's very fair.
I just know when there's like a very impactful heel turn, it's always like a quick low blow or like some like action where like the crowd will pop. And like I feel like that crowd didn't really pop and know that Dom turned until he had picked Liv up. That's when like you can hear the crowd like but like I don't know, it was a little, I don't know, that was a little weird to me, the execution of it. But I do think it was you know, the direction of it is really good. I do think Dom should be with Liv. I feel like that's Dom and Rhea was so hot as like a product, and then you know unfortunately Rhea just got injured, and like it kind of killed that momentum to where like Liv literally came in here and stole everything from Rhea. She stole everything. The Judgment Day, Dominic, she got super popular. Like it's just that's what's working. So I feel like it made more sense to just, you know, don't fix what isn't broken. You kind of like tease that Dom was gonna go back to Rhea, but I don't know, even when they were like teasing it, it still felt off. You're like, nah, it was kind of more entertaining when he was with Liv. So I'm not really surprised that this is the direction they're going with. I think it adds fuel to the fire, and yeah, I'll be interested to see who wins the rivalry overall. I do think it's headed to that one pay-per-view, Bad Blood. I think that's where it will kind of culminate, and we'll see. I know the next pay-per-view, immediate next pay-per-view, is Bash in Berlin, so I'll be interested to see if there's a second match between Liv and Rhea. But that title did not change yet, as we alluded to.
One of the two retained titles, right?
Yes, so that was one of two. That title did not change. However, many titles changed on the show, and we're going to start firing through them. The first, Sami Zayn, Braun Breaker, Mr. PLE, Sami. It came to an end. I'm a huge Sami Zayn fan, so I'm hurt. But I did predict that Braun was winning, as he did. How did you fail to see the end of Sami's reign?
Well, I mean, I obviously people complain about everything. It's so true, right? But the one thing I will say about Sami is that the reason why I liked him so much is because he was an underdog, right? But even with the title, still felt like an underdog, which, you know, that kind of works for the character. But if you have someone like Braun Breaker, who's like, you know, a generational talent, someone who can and will carry the company one day, who is destined for greatness. Like I remember I sent you a picture of Braun Breaker. I guess he was at the Lions Stadium or something. I guess he was posing for something, and he had a Universal Championship on him. And you were like, oh, that's too soon for that. It looks cool. It did look pretty cool, but I'm happy for Braun. I think he deserves it. I really like how his like character is. I watched like a couple like behind the scenes things about like documentaries about him, and he was even on the Pat McAfee show, which is pretty cool. But just to kind of see the amount of athleticism and like kind of like how he presents himself as like this rageful like beast who, you know, is all powerful and doesn't want to listen to anyone, and he just does whatever the hell he wants. And he wanted that championship. He wanted that IC championship. And obviously he already lost to Sami at Money in the Bank, which people were very mad about, which is, you know, it's not surprising, but at the same time, like, no, they're going to want to save something like that for an even bigger event. As such as SummerSlam. So, and I think that was probably the quickest match of the night too, is that only after a couple things, boom, like, I even wrote it down. I said a spear will seal the deal, and boom, it did. Braun, you know, started building up momentum. Even though Haluva kick didn't do nothing to him, he just went,
ripped him in half.
Yep, and got that championship.
Yeah, I mean, I guess on my end, there's not too much for me to say about this match. I do want to just again give Sami his flowers. I think it was a great reign. It was super. Just kind of overlooked. Like a lot of people just forgot about Sami as champion, doubted it, they weren't enjoying it. But for me, I feel like Sami went out there, PLE after PLE, and just put on banger after banger. And that's why I'm still touting him Mr. PLE, man. Like that's still gonna be his name. and I hope that he kind of delves into the Bloodline Civil War story. I think he belongs there, even if he's not a Fatu or actually part of the family. He still was part of that OG Bloodline. So I would like to see that kind of be where he goes. And then as for Braun, yeah, I do think that, if they're so high on Braun and one day he will be the world champion, one day he will be a Hall of Famer, he's got to start somewhere. And it's good to have a nice, singles mid-card title to start. I don't know, though. Personally, there's something about Braun that I feel like... it's not that I don't like him. It's not that I hate him. But it's just more like it's not my kind of wrestler. I don't know. Like, I think maybe this is what I would say. I feel like it almost is giving me, not to the same degree, but like very slightly, vibes of when Roman Reigns was first in WWE and everybody was just sick of him and hated this man. They're like, no, like he has to be a bad guy. No, he's forced. Like they're trying too hard. Like it's not working. Something wasn't clicking. And I feel like that's the same thing for Braun Breaker. Maybe I think he's just a better heel, or he looks like he'd be a better bad guy, but like I just can't get behind him. Like he clearly is supposed to win all these matches, so it's like I just don't want to I don't view him as an underdog. I like the underdog. I like the Sami Zayns. I don't really get behind the Braun Breaker. I'll give him his respect and know that he's a generational talent, but like he's just not the wrestler that I tend to root for.
It's not your champion.
Yeah, exactly. Like, congrats on winning. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily happy. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it had to happen. It's not that I want it to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the point there because I don't even think I know how to formulate that. Because, like I said, something's still just off with me and how I view Braun Breaker as a wrestler. So I need to figure that out. But until I do, that wasn't the only mid-card title that switched on the night. Immediately after Braun Breaker lifts the Intercontinental Championship, L.A.
Yeah.
LA Knight, Logan Paul. Now this one is a champion I can get behind. Well deserved, long overdue. LA Knight finally defeats Logan Paul in his own hometown where he was getting booed out of the building. They did not care that this man was from Cleveland. How did you enjoy Logan, LA Knight?
Yeah. Well, last thing I will say about Sami and Braun. I think it was like a behind the scenes thing, but afterwards, or no, was that might have been at there or Raw? Might have been at Raw. But Sami there, he's kind of talking. He's like, yeah, I lost the championship. It is what it is. But then who appears right next to him? The Mr. Yeet. Got Jey Uso popping right up and says, don't worry, Uso. We're going to get your title back. Don't worry. He says, but in the meantime, he said, I might need your help with something. And I don't think it's about the Bloodline just yet. They're starting to plant the seeds for it. But if they're going to team up and do some sort of tag team stuff again, boom. There you go. That's how it starts. So good on for that. But yeah, moving on. One, I thought it was so funny how Logan Paul just got booed in Cleveland in his own home city. Hometown. It's so funny, and I do it because he got himself into even more hot water as of more recently too with some stuff he said on Twitter. Dude's always getting into some sort of trouble. That's just how he is. But I even said it too. I don't like the guy. I can respect the same thing with probably Braun. I can respect his athleticism. I can respect how he is as a heel champion, that type of thing. Yeah. But long overdue for Mr. LA Knight. I think it is so cool that he finally won, and especially the United States Championship. It makes perfect sense for him. He's hot in the mic. He's hot in the ring. He's a hot guy, maybe. Hey. No, he's a cool dude, seriously. And actually, I think, I wrote even here. This is my nice little new quote wall that I'm starting to put up. Just quotes down here, some stuff. And then recently on Cody Rhodes' podcast, funnily enough, it's crazy how he has one. He had LA Knight on, and there's a quote that he said too, because LA Knight's story, and why I really respect him and like him as a superstar, megastar, if you will. And how he's quickly becoming one of my favorites of all time, as I should say right now. Maybe not all time, more so just because I'm still new to wrestling. But he was talking about how for the longest time he just was doing stuff and it just wasn't clicking. Same thing you could say about how you feel about Braun or how Roman was earlier. He was just anything he really tried, it just wasn't really sticking, or the crowd wasn't as into it. And I didn't know this too, but apparently he was in Triple H's workout video.
Oh,
like
I've
years
seen clips.
ago.
Yeah.
I saw it, and that was the first. And like he was like an extra. He was like helping work. He was working out with Triple H,
Yep.
and it's so funny because like at one point in the clip, he asked like Triple H asked him, was like, "Hey, you guys ready?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, yeah." And then you hear him go, "Yeah," and actually Triple H like looks at him for like a second and be like, "What the fuck did he just say?" And then just go right back to it, and it's the funniest thing ever. But like that's where you first heard the "yeah" part. But all that to say is that he just talked about like how much he had to grind, how much he had to struggle, and how he just had to keep going on. And he's like already like in his mid-30s, and he said like literally it took him a good amount of time to get to the point he was. But what he did say though is that earlier too, when he was in WWE, I'm pretty sure he got to a point where like he was starting to get some reception, but he just stopped putting in the work for some stuff. He stopped, training as much. He stopped doing whatever, and ultimately that's what kind of let him be let go at that point. So what he said too, this is a quote that I wrote down. He said, the beginning part, he says, "I don't understand people who have this mentality of how do you struggle to get there, then you do, and then you give up." And what he means by that is, you're working all your life and you finally get to that one plateau or that one high point and you're like, that's it. I don't got to do anything. I don't have to work. I don't have to do this as hard. I already made it. No, that's not it at all. You have to continuously be working like it's going to be the last day you're ever at that point. And that's what he did. And, obviously we're both content creators. We've talked about this plenty of times. We always struggle with, or it's a grind too, but it's something that you can't let up on. And because of that, I think that's ultimately what helped him here, that mentality, that mindset, that dog mindset of, hey, I need to become the United States champion. I can't let Logan fucking Paul just give a title defense every 3 to 5 years, once in a blue moon type shit. That's what it feels like at this point, right? It's almost as bad as Roman. But like, yeah, I think he has the skill, he has the ability, he has the mic work. And I saw someone say this one thing too. Last thing I'll say about the whole thing is I saw someone said, imagine, could be at WrestleMania even next year because it's in Nevada, it's in Vegas, or even not even there, just somewhere. LA Knight, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oof. Okay.
A battle, not even a wrestling match, but a battle of the mics.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I like
what?
it.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And then you have, ooh, so here. Yeah. What? Yeet.
Yeah.
Just goes in a circle. Well, yeah, I agree. I do think, good match, well deserved. Like, this is one of those, there's always some moments in wrestling where someone is just due. And I feel like some that immediately come to mind are Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania 40, Kofi Kingston when he won the world title, Daniel Bryan way back at WrestleMania 30. So many people were behind him. I'm trying to think. Big E, he cashed in and won the world title once. Over in AEW, you have Swerve that won the world title. Like, there's just some people where you're like, it's their time. And LA Knight has been that guy for over a year. Ever since last year's Money in the Bank, people wanted him to win because they're like, come on, bro. LA Knight is on top of the world. He's a top merch seller. His catchphrase is over as hell. You went to any WWE event, probably still to this day, and before the show begins, when the crowd's just bored, sitting, filing in, you'll just hear, yeah, and it just travels throughout the arena. Like, he's just become, like, an icon in WWE. And the fact that WWE was, they had him on top of the mountain, and they just weren't pulling the trigger, like, people were getting frustrated. They're like, damn, just let this man win a title. And even though, he had many opportunities against Roman Reigns, and many people would probably vie that he could be a world heavyweight champion, contender and very worthy. At least he finally got a start. Kind of same with Braun, like getting a start with the Intercontinental Championship. Obviously, it's different for LA Knight, where he's older, pushing 40, like already been through the whole career, as you explained. That's different. But at least he finally has won a singles WWE championship. Not many people actually get that honor, like there's a lot of wrestlers that kind of, they try, they flop, it doesn't work, they get fired. They never even won a tag title, an Intercontinental, you name it. Not even like the Speed Championship. They didn't even win the Speed
24/7 champion.
They didn't even become 24/7 champion, so like just to become a champion in WWE, you're already in a pretty elite class. And yeah, all flowers and respect to Logan Paul. He put on, a very seldom defense of a reign, but he's still just super talented. And, I still want to see him in WWE at these events. putting on banger matches because, yeah, at the end of the day, whether you like him or don't, more often than not, probably don't like him, as the majority seems to be.
Yes.
You still got to respect him, and you still got to respect that he's got, a love of the game, love for the, sport of wrestling, and he takes it seriously, and he's just, athletically gifted. And then you're tired, man. You got through the opening match, you got through the mid-card titles. What happens? It's time for another title change, back to back. 3 new champions as Nia Jax defeats Bayley. Now, this was the only match where my prediction was wrong, but I feel like there's a little bit of an asterisk to it because my prediction wasn't necessarily fully wrong. I did predict it was going to be Tiffany Stratton walking out as the champion, and we were watching it, and you heard, "It's Tiffy time." I was like, I knew it. So, like, I feel like I get, like, half credit for the fact that at least she ran out and teased the Money in the Bank cash in. But, yeah, they shockingly actually let Nia Jax win the title, walk out as champion. No Money in the Bank cash in. Bayley lost. How do you feel about this one? Personally, I feel like I don't have much to say. This was honestly the match I was least invested in, and I love Bayley and respect her, but there just wasn't much going for the storyline. I'm never really invested in a Nia Jax match, with all due respect.
Dude, that brings me back to King and Queen of the Ring, where she defeated, was it Lyra Valkyria? And it's just crushed her. So I would agree with that too. I mean, obviously, I love Bayley. Bayley's the best. And she had a good reign. She well-deserved title reign. Obviously, won the Royal Rumble, Women's Royal Rumble, and won the championship at WrestleMania 40. So it's gonna be a good reign. But yeah, I agree. I just think with the way that it kind of like went down, at least, I get the big picture of, okay, you let Nia Jax win Queen of the Ring, you let her win the championship, defeat Bayley. While the Tiffy cash-in would have made sense if she was going to do it, but now it builds up for an even bigger storyline of, okay, when is Tiffy going to backstab Nia? Because that's most likely what's going to happen. As now she was going to cash in at one point. Yep. But now that Nia has it, she's going to be like, "Oh, I'm so happy for you." But then, in the back of your mind, like, you still got the briefcase. You still can cash in at any moment. So I think that's the direction. But I would agree. I just don't think there's anything crazy to write home about for this match in particular. I did see something though that, like, once again, I'm always checking Twitter for stuff. I don't know if it's like the original plan or if it was a plan, but it kind of built up to it too. Because remember how, like, when Bayley did win, her biggest supporter was Naomi, supporter, like, and been friends since day one. She was saying like, "Oh, I always got your back," kind of similar to how we kind of see how Randy's been talking to Cody about every bit and piece there. But you kind of expected like, oh, she's gonna want to challenge for that at one point. So that could have been the end goal for that, but I think they just kind of realized like, hey, we could do something here with Tiffy winning the Money in the Bank, and with Nia Jax being Queen of the Ring. Maybe we could do something with that. So I think that's probably the direction that they want to go to. For me, I'm also on the same page. I don't necessarily like it, but it happened. Gotta move on. Obviously, flowers for Bayley as well. She's gonna be a Hall of Famer. I think she's already accomplished so much, basically. But I think she needs some well-deserved rest. That's what I think.
Well-deserved, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I already said it. Like, there's not much for me to add to this one. Unfortunately, like, when I was growing up, like the Divas matches, when they were referred to Divas at the time, were always like deemed the bathroom break matches, and like obviously that's mad disrespectful, especially nowadays.
The bathroom match, yeah.
But like women's wrestling has just evolved crazy ever since then. When you had the 4 horsewomen, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Bayley, become just trailblazers. Before them, you had AJ Lee, Paige, like all these women that just really put women's wrestling on the map. And now you have matches like Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley becoming like literal destination matches where you're like, oh shit, this is the one that I'm most excited to see. Like I said, for me, that was a top 2 match on SummerSlam's whole card.
I'd agree.
But unfortunately, this match literally and factually was the bathroom break of SummerSlam. It was placed right in the middle, and like when they did a couple crowd shot pans, and you can just see how like empty the arena got. Like it was so feel bad, and I feel like that's the point I'm always making for Bayley's title reign. And it's not that people don't like Bayley. It's not that people, you know, like are trying to disrespect Bayley, but it's just like
they still like Nia Jax. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Nia Jax is the most popular star, but then also I just think the way that Bayley's reign went, like, you know, it never really had a storyline that you were invested in. And when you're fighting competition like Nia Jax, Piper Niven, like those giants that you can't really have like an athletic, like one-on-one 5-star match with, it's more just you're gonna get tossed around, beaten up, and then you're gonna like do a roll up and win. They're just not the most entertaining and exciting matches. They don't stand out on the match cards, and that's kind of what Bayley just kind of succumbed to as champion. It was just a lot of bad booking, lack of competition. You know, she could have gotten into programs with Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi. She wasn't booked to fight them, you know.
Nope.
I think her best match easily was the triple threat with Tiffany Stratton and Naomi. That was easily my favorite match of the Bayley title reign. But besides that one match, it was just a lot of very forgettable, unfortunately placed matches. She was always placed on like the worst slot on the match card. She always had an opponent that was just not creating an.
She's never on the promo page.
She's never on the promo page. Like, it's just a lot of disrespect to Bayley. But yeah, we'll leave it there. You know, flowers to Bayley for her reign. We'll see. I think we have to give Nia Jax the Damian Priest treatment, where it's like, well, you're champ. Nobody necessarily wanted it or expected it. Prove us wrong. Like, now we'll see how Nia Jax does as champion. You can't hate on something that hasn't truly started. But we'll see. I do think, yeah, as you already explained, and I don't want to be a broken record here, I think the story is that, you know, Tiffany has the briefcase. They've already planted the seeds of like that friendship between Tiffany and Nia Jax. So now we have to see, not if, but rather when Tiffany tries to cash in, and if she'll be successful or if she won't.
But speaking of title changes and the Damian Priest effect, this next match.
The next match.
I don't like you, man. Yeah, go for it.
It's actually not the Damian Priest match.
Oh, I lied.
Boo. I was gonna say they finally gave us a break after 3 title changes in a row. Yes, there is a 4th title change that came after this next grudge match of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins. You goofy goober, forgetting the match order. That's why I'm the host.
No, boo.
This was a vengeance match. This is
the one where this is what happened when people were coming back from the bathroom. They came back and they're like, oh, there we go.
This is the one that's already being rumored as the main event Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood. I've read up on that a couple times. Ooh, Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. Yeah, you know, you started as always. What did you think of this one?
Well, I will say this. I love this feud. I think the feud, or at least when it started as Drew and Punk, I think it's great. I love how you kind of throw Seth Rollins back into the equation too, especially after getting screwed at Money in the Bank. Yeah. You know, everyone's already pissed off of each other, and then you're like, all right, you guys can fight. You guys are all clear to go. But then it's like, Seth, well, I'll be the referee. It's my rules, my ring, that type of thing. That's the energy he gave off. And by the way, you know, he was wearing that referee outfit, got the tank top on, the sparkly, bedazzled, you know, ref shirt, and he was going all in. But yeah, I mean, initial thoughts. I think the match cooked. CM Punk still has it. They are saying that this was his first match like official match besides, you know, the Royal Rumble in WWE in 10 years, which is crazy to think about because, you know, these guys have been around for so long and they've been doing this forever. But like for WWE to come back and be a part of that, really cool to see. Yeah, I thought they did a great job. I thought, you know, obviously Drew is, you know, a beefy dude as is, and, you know, to kind of see him go toe to toe with CM Punk was great. And I really liked kind of like how like Seth was involved into as a referee, because every now and again, if like one was getting ready to pin the other, like they're looking at him like, come on, hurry! He's like, oh yeah, 1, 2. It's like, no, it's only 2, but there's actually, they just released a clip. I believe it's on like all like their socials, but it's footage from Seth Rollins' ref cam, which that's something new they just did for this PLE, where all the referees had like a little kind of camera on their ear that would basically show their POV and like have audio, and it was really cool because it showed like how he was, you know, kind of messing around with people like at one point he was talking to Drew. He's like, Drew, like, listen, like, you can hit way harder than that. Like, you can, come on, you can hurt this guy. Go for it. Or when he's talking to CM Punk at one point, and even at one point too, like, he was just kind of lounging on like the ropes of the ring. He was just kind of sitting there, just so nonchalant. It was cool. And at one point, obviously, both of them did get mad at him at some point. So they would hit him. They like I think was it CM Punk who actually like kind of like hit him out of the ring or something. So. And because of that, he's even more mad after that. But great match. I tell you what, even before I didn't really know who was gonna win, because you're like, okay, well, I mean, makes sense. CM Punk's first match in forever, give him the win at least, and let him like be done with Drew. But then with Drew, dude's been screwed over so much this year already, especially by Punk. So give him the win, give him even more of an ego boost, that type of thing. That could work as well. So I picked Drew to win. That's what happened. And yeah, I mean, overall, great match. I think it's perfect, and that storyline is going to still continue as is too, which is really cool. It's not just a one and done. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I also went into this picking Drew. I just figured, he's the heel in this story. He has a little less star power overall than CM Punk, so I figured it made a little more sense to give him the first win. I think it was a great match overall. Seth was fun as referee. He didn't have to have a match on SummerSlam to have a heavy part in SummerSlam. And yeah, it was always going to go down as an iconic outfit for the referee. I'm sure that's going to be in all the WWE worlds for future events. And I think the biggest takeaway here is, one, the feud's going to continue. There's much more. It'll be interesting to see if it's still going to just be Punk versus Drew, or if they're going to work in like, kind of like a triple threat like storyline with Rollins involved. But my biggest takeaway is like CM Punk looked good, man. And growing up watching CM Punk as a kid, like this was the first time. Like, I watched Punk when he had his AEW run, but it felt like a different Punk. It felt like more of like a veteran Punk. He's back. He's got something to prove that, like, he still got it, but he also has it in like a different way. This felt very nostalgic, CM Punk. This is the first time I was watching it. I was like, that shit nostalgic. He had like the he came out with the hoodie. He came out in like the Bret Hart pink gear. And I don't know, maybe it's like a haircut, a beard thing, just the way he's going about it, like even his moveset. But like he looked really good in the ring. There were no point where I was like, he's rusty. Like he looked damn good. He's definitely been training, working his ass off, and has good chemistry with Drew McIntyre. I think that's my biggest takeaway, man. Punk like got through a big match. No injury as far as we know, and with it likely being slated to main event Bad Blood or be a part of Bad Blood, and possibly even that might be the third match. Maybe the second match will be at Bash in Berlin. We'll see. I think it's going to be definitely a top storyline alongside the Judgment Day. Not even just on Raw, but in all of WWE that people want to continue following and are invested in. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this possible, trio of matches goes. And True. I enjoyed it. I do think Drew winning was the right move, and overall the match was great.
I will say too that I'm sure because I'm trying to keep up with everything too. Now, have you seen the clips about what happened with Bronson Reed? Big Bronson Reed. First off, real good idea to start getting him over with that, and push him, just be like, I'm gonna care. I'm gonna attack Seth Rollins out of everyone. I was cracking up because he just kept doing tsunami after tsunami. He kept going. It was and they're like, stop him! Someone going. Where's the tranquilizer? He's a taser on it. He's just going up. He's like, and the refs are like, no. Then the refs all get out of the way, and just Seth's just like, spitting blood and everything. It was cool. Maybe that'll factor in too. Maybe this could also just be like a one-off thing as well. Who knows? But definitely interesting timing to kind of have that happen right as that feud is. It hasn't finished. It's starting to heat up even more. So I wonder how that's going to factor into everything. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, as he alluded to, we are recording this after the Monday Night Raw, after SummerSlam. So that event did take place. And yeah, I think it is. I don't want to say it makes no sense. It makes so much sense for someone who's been overlooked on the roster and not being booked on PLEs to just go for someone like Seth Rollins, who is a top star, top dog, former world champion. That makes sense to me, and I think it's really cool. I have nothing against Bronson Reed. I honestly don't know too much about him. I haven't watched too many of his matches. So, Triple H sees, he's big. he's a tsunami. Triple H sees something in him to bring him back and put so much faith in him. So yeah, I'm very interested to see if that gets involved, and I want to see if it takes Seth Rollins away from the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre storyline, or if Bronson Reed's getting worked into it and it's going to end up becoming like a fatal 4-way type storyline. Like, who knows? That will definitely be something to develop. But you already alluded to it earlier.
Oh, yes. I skipped this match just to talk about it.
We are now to the point of the night where we got through the usual Triple H 5-pack. We now have these last two matches, and they saved the WWE Championship match and the World Heavyweight Championship match for the final two slots. And the fourth match was Damian Priest Gunther, as you alluded to, where we had our fourth title change of the night. Tadaring General Gunther. How did you enjoy this? And again, to also allude to the nail in the coffin turn for the Judgment Day, Finn Balor. Dig in, man. Dig in.
Yes, of course. Well, same thing like I said before. We knew it was going to happen with the Finn Balor turn. Well, first off, even before that too, I'll say this, like, and I didn't expect to think it too, because like when I first started watching, WWE and stuff, I think it was even before WrestleMania and all that, just kind of do my research. I didn't like Priest. I don't think a lot of people really did. He's kind of like they called him the bisexual Undertaker. It was the biggest meme joke of the year, right? But the match that I watched of him was when he fought Bad Bunny at Backlash in Puerto Rico. And that was sick. That was so. Obviously, we talk about crowd hype.
Yeah.
That was a crazy match in Puerto Rico. And Bad Bunny's just so cool. It was really cool. But when he won, or when he cashed in, like, it was hype to see it happen live. Like, oh shit, he's cashing in.
Yep.
Finally using the briefcase. But when he became champion, I was like, you know what? Like, same thing you said about Nia Jax. Like, no, well, he's champion. It happened. Let's see what he does. And honestly, he went a lot longer than I thought he would. Because I thought, I was looking at like old comments or something, and I think they were saying that, I forget. Like, he would have been like champion for like a couple like months or something, and then like someone else would come in like instantly. I forget exactly who it was they were talking about. But regardless of that, I just think that he surprised me. He actually kind of grew on me. I think I really liked Priest. I really like kind of like how like he was essentially the self-proclaimed leader after Rhea Ripley got injured. So he was like making sure all the people at Judgment Day, JD, Finn, Dom, and now even Carlito, and they're all behaving at some point. I always love like his little feuds with R-Truth at some points too, where he's like, "You're not in the Judgment Day, hell no, get out of here," that type of thing.
Yep.
And it was cool. I really liked him. I really liked him as a person. I really liked kind of see how much he improved as champion. So proud of him for that. But of course, all those things being said, it's Gunther. Like, there's no way, and I even knew this too going into it. When he won King of the Ring, I was like, yeah, he's becoming champion, hands down. Obviously, when Money in the Bank, the whole feud with Seth, no way that Seth was gonna win just to lose to Gunther, because whoever won that match, and even Gunther said it too. He says, "The winner of you two will be the lesser of the two of us," that type of thing, or something like that. I thought it was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, hands down, I knew Gunther was gonna win. Dude was just too strong. He's starting General for a reason.
Yep.
Put on a good show. Obviously after losing that IC title to Sami Zayn, you knew he was gonna move on to bigger and better things, and that is it. And yeah, but also the biggest part of it too is the Finn Balor change. Like, you knew it was gonna happen, but the way it happened was really cool, because he looks like he's gonna help, and then he's like, "No, I'm not here to help." And then you just see him like smiling, and he's just like, yeah. And then Damien's like, "You bitch," and he tries to choke him out, and then Gunther gets him and takes him out. That type of thing. So, expected, but still a cool twist and cool surprise. Congrats to Gunther for winning, and hey, flowers to Damian Priest. Like I said, he grew on me as a wrestler. I think he's pretty cool. But man, storylines are just gonna keep on going.
Yes, sir. I think that Judgment Day storyline, is gonna keep boiling, and I'm interested to see what direction Gunther goes as champion. Who his first feud will be, who his top feud will be. If you look at Cody, you can easily say his top feud so far in the reign has been AJ Styles. That's what everyone loves. So it'll be interesting to see what bangers Gunther puts on and who it will be against. I'm excited for that whole title reign, and for the title to kind of the title itself to just move in a different direction. Judgment Day is so hot as is, it doesn't need the title anymore. And Priest really got himself over. Like, he now 100% is viewed as a main event competitor. And just like you said, you know, he won you over, he won me over, he won a lot of the WWE crowd over. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. Unfortunately, again, another criticism I feel like is when Finn Balor did the turn to like put Gunther's leg up on the rope, that shit was mad botched, because the way that Gunther fell, he like Damian Priest like purposely rolled him to the rope, and I was like, here it comes.
Yeah, like, wait a second. Yeah.
I'm like, here comes the heel turn. Like, it was just that yeah. I was like, it kind of ruined it. But yeah, unfortunately, the physical execution of both the Dom Mysterio turn and the Finn Balor turn kind of fell a little flat. But it doesn't matter. The story is going to carry it anyways. People are so invested. I feel like that can be excused. It's just me nitpicking. But yeah, I mean, overall, you know, congrats to Gunther. Very happy to see, you know, another ring general reign. He's just one of those guys that's meant to be a champion. And yeah, I'm interested to see, you know, the Terror Twins just on Raw went on a whole rampage, and Rhea and Damien are going to be, you know, good guys now without titles. And it's interesting to see how that progresses.
Of course. And you also, I don't know if you know too, but we already technically have a first matchup for Gunther already.
That's true.
Which is, by the way, I thought that was so cool. It's our good old classic, the Apex Predator of WWE, the Viper, Randy.
Which I think is interesting because he's coming over from SmackDown.
On a Raw, yeah. So fuck the draft. You told me too that like it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, because like you could be on the same thing. Like Jey Uso is gonna go back to SmackDown at some point for Bloodline feud. But what I will say is that promo cooked. I don't know if you saw the full promo of it, but like they're both like obviously Gunther calling Damian Priest street trash. He says, "Yeah, go back to the streets where you belong." That type of thing. I was like, "Whoa, hey!" But no. Then he got Randy coming out, and he's like, you know what? Like, you know, he says, "Yeah, like I realized something too. Like, you know, you beat me, so you get to the championship. But did you really beat me? Because we even talked about it too on when we talked about King and Queen, how it looked like a little bit of a botched pin just because his shoulder was up or something." Mm-hmm. So, but he's like, what Triple H knows is that Triple H has confirmed that we can do this at Bash in Berlin. I want that title. And one of the favorite lines too they said in that promo is like, you know, like, you consider yourself a living legend, and like you are a legend. You know, that's great. You know, good for you. He says, but I made a career out of killing legends, and I'm like, oh shit. Yep. So that's gonna be a hype match, obviously at Bash in Berlin. I think the voices in his head are definitely they are telling him he's hungry for a championship. My guess is that he's going to go for Gunther. I don't think he's going to win, unfortunately. But because of that, I think that's when he's going to start looking at Cody again. He's like, wait a second, there's another one I could probably get to. And boom, he's going to start going for Cody. Once after all maybe the Bloodline stuff settles, or even as it's going on too, I think that'll be a separate storyline for SmackDown. But we'll find out on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It does suck. I love the draft because I like having separate brands. So like I'm like, why do they have to start crossing brands again? Why? But here we are anyways. You know, at the end of the day, you're getting another Randy Orton and Gunther match. So why complain? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting again to just see how Priest moves on out of this with the Judgment Day story, and how Gunther moves on with, you're right, this first feud Randy, which I did forget about happening on Raw, and then past that, the future feuds. But as you mentioned in his name, Cody was in the main event, final match of SummerSlam. I feel like there's not, first off, we are getting a little long on the podcast, so I don't want to speed it up, but it's good because I feel like there's not too much to dive into the match itself, because we've seen this match twice on SmackDowns already, so it wasn't really anything that was too exciting. However, obviously the ending is something I would like to dissect. But you know, just quick little Spark Note summary. What did you think of this main event for SummerSlam? Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa.
Once again, no Aura, Solo Sikoa. That's what we're calling him. And it's true. We have seen this match plenty of times too on SmackDowns before. I think that's why I alluded to in the beginning how SmackDown was just kind of hanging on by a thread. Just because it just felt very repetitive. And Solo, you know, he said he's taking it all, but did he really? Did he really take it all? All he did was just take Roman's little necklace. You know, chain, if you will, and maybe Paul Heyman's life, but who knows? But maybe he'll be back. Which by the way, no Paul Heyman this time around, and no Jimmy, so they're saving something for that. That's gonna be for the Civil War, probably. We're talking about later. However, before we get to the big thing, like the final part of it, Yeah, nothing real crazy too. Obviously, Cody is gonna have better moves than Solo does. I think at one point Solo even tried to do a crossroads, but immediately got like flipped over, and Cody did it again. Yep. And then you had, of course, the classic interference because it was Bloodline rules.
Yep.
Look at you now, boy. Bloodline rules. Mama Rhodes, right? And then you have, you got the Tongas, but still Tonga, what was it?
Tongaloa.
I think it's Tongaloa just botches for shit, man. I'm sorry, man. And there was one where like he was trying to drive Cody into the corner, but instead went to the rope and like shifted him over. I was like, oh my god. So I'm like, all right, well, they still got shit to. I don't know what they're gonna do. Someone said, this whole Bloodline Civil War thing's going on, and then all of a sudden you're gonna see either the Tongas. Someone even said Jacob Fatu on the Speed Championship.
Oh god.
I'm like, no, please don't do it. But of course, the help that Cody did get. Of course, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, the two people who have been included in this entire thing. Kevin Owens, especially, I just not giving the Bloodline a rest. He just goes right in. He looked tired as hell running into that ring. He's like, oh shit.
Yeah, that big ass ring.
Yeah. So obviously, they both defeat both the Tongas, but then all of a sudden you got Jacob Fatu coming out of nowhere doing his shit. And then finally, when it looks like all hope is lost, he jumps on Cody, and we saw it happen. And we thought at first like either he's really selling it or he actually got hurt. And when he landed on the table and like hit his ankle, turns out he actually did get hurt. He's wearing a boot. Someone spotted him at like a convenience store after SummerSlam. It looked like he got injured. Maybe it's not too serious. That's what Triple H said. But I think they said the idea was that he would get hurt so that way he couldn't help protect Solo from the return of the Tribal Chief. Which, by the way, the thing on his shirt, OTC, stands for Original Tribal Chief.
Yep.
That's what I found out.
Yeah, I kind of
Roman's back.
Roman is back. Roman is back. The man we all rooted against at WrestleMania 40, and now everyone wanted Roman. Yeah, I mean, the match itself again, like, I always feel bad because I do like Solo Sikoa. I want him to succeed, but still something's not clicking.
At all.
And yeah, it was a match. I love Cody, but this match definitely wasn't one of the ones where you're gonna look at Cody's reign and be like, oh my god, that match was Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam, that was a banger. Like, you're not gonna do that. This was a match that everyone was just kind of like, it's the main event, but yeah, I think the execution was good. I think I'm still just a little confused as to why like Randy was involved in the return here, and then immediately the next night goes into like the storyline with Gunther. I'm like, I don't understand that whole flip-flop. That's a little weird for me. And then I do think the Jacob Fatu, it's either like very smart that they did that so it doesn't make Jacob look weak when like Roman just runs right through him, and like to keep Roman and Jacob separated, or if it is just a legit injury, that's very unfortunate. I guess we'll find out on Friday. But yeah, Roman is back. I think it's gonna be really cool to see a babyface Roman Reigns that people actually want to cheer, because obviously Roman has actually been a babyface more than he's been a heel in his career, even though obviously with the title reign it feels like Roman's been a heel for so long because he was a champion for so long. But all those years being in the Shield, like aside from when they initially debuted, they pretty much were baby faces. And then when everyone was hating on Roman Reigns and he was fighting Brock Lesnar endlessly, he was always still a baby face, man, even when it was trash. But I think this would be cool now that we've had the Tribal Chief character. He got super over, literally like a king of WWE, and now he's back to see how this Tribal Chief character works as a good guy. I think that's going to be very interesting, a nice refreshing change of pace. It'll be interesting to see how that, gets reworked in with Cody Rhodes, and I think there's so many paths that this story can go, and I definitely think having Roman Reigns back, like literally one of the top, if not the top attraction in WWE, can help out SmackDown. That has definitely been so much weaker than Raw. Yes. Which sucks because, as a Cody fanboy, I wish Cody could hold his own and whatnot, but Cody can't do it by himself. Roman can, and Roman has had the help of just, the curation of the Bloodline storyline. Cody Rhodes has to stand on his own 2 feet, and if he doesn't have a fellow wrestler to put on a banger with him, he's just going to get shit on and hated on. Roman Reigns at the end of the day just has that aura because of how focused and how much time and dedication and love was put into the Bloodline storyline. People are so invested in it that Roman Reigns just has this armor where, like, no matter what he does, like, he is now forever, like, immortalized in WWE for that Bloodline storyline, for how iconic and entertaining it was. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm very excited to see clips from SmackDown, see how it all plays out, see what's up with Jacob Fatu, and yeah, we'll see how the whole Bloodline Civil War, what direction is going for Cody's title, how that all brews. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be turned over to SmackDown because of Roman Reigns.
Of course. And I think it'd be interesting to see how, like we said, the other members of the original Bloodline factor into this.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, how Jay gets involved, if Jimmy returns, when Paul Heyman returns, if Sami Zayn also gets involved again, who knows? But, really all depends on how time goes. Obviously, I think Survivor Series for War Games is going to be a big factor in that, especially if it is going to be the Bloodline Civil War. And let's also not forget, how does The Rock factor into this as well too? Because potentially he could be behind something else too. You never know.
Yep.
But yeah, you know what? I kind of last thing I'll say about that match too is that it just really, and I think that you alluded to it when we talked about how WrestleMania is for the longest time would always just be one night, and it'd be such a long night that you're really just like, oh. And I feel like that was kind of a match like that. Obviously, the Roman return probably made it worthwhile for a lot of people, but in the moment you're just kind of like, we had a great match earlier with Gunther and Priest, even at the beginning with Rhea and Liv. Same thing you could say with Logan and LA Knight, you name it. But or even just like Punk, Drew, and Seth, like that easily could have also been maybe the main event too. But I know Cody needs to defend his title somehow like that, so it makes sense. But I just think it also very much gave the energy of we talked about Money in the Bank, how the main event was just a triple threat tag team match, or not triple threat, sorry, a tag team match. Triple threat tag team match, which is weird to say. But and it just felt like that was also kind of going on for a while too. So I'm really interested to see how stuff will take a turn now since Roman is back as this babyface. And yeah, I mean, overall, you can give your rating too. I think this SummerSlam was good. I think on paper, the match cards looked great. I think most of them were great too. Obviously, there's a couple we talked about too. We're just like, it is what it is. But I think they definitely did a great job. I think this first SummerSlam in the Triple H era, real good. I think Triple H did a really good job with the bookings. I am interested to see how or what will lead up to Bash in Berlin, because it's literally like in less than 20 something days.
Yeah,
at
it's
this point.
At the end of it's still in August, so
so you never know.
Yeah, we'll see the builds. We'll have a podcast leading up to Bash at Berlin literally in a few weeks. So, we have a very important SmackDown and then an important 1 to 2 weeks of Raw and SmackDown to have the build for this next pay-per-view. Obviously, all eyes will be on Roman Reigns. All eyes will be on, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, these world titles, these new champions.
We'll say just also leading it to Raw, because yesterday was also the debut of the Wyatt Six.
Yes, the Wyatt
that week. I could also involve too for a potential PLE as well. So
hopefully the Wyatt Six can finally make their PLE debut. I think that was awesome that they had their in-ring debut and they look sick.
I think it'll be Bad Blood. Probably be Bad Blood. More than likely.
But that's it. That was SummerSlam. I think for my rating, it's a solid event. Probably I might have to give it a 9 out of 10. That might be a little high, maybe like an 8.5. Yeah, somewhere in that range. Like, it was solid. Definitely enjoyed it much more than Money in the Bank. But my post WrestleMania favorite PLE, I feel like Backlash is still just standing strong, man. That was just so good. But SummerSlam was solid. Definitely went into this PLE with a lot of anticipation, and it delivered on just about all fronts. Every match was solid, aside from as we critiqued the Nia Jax match. Every other match was just an attraction. And even though Roman and Cody and Solo wasn't an attraction as a match itself, we all knew it was the main event because of the looming Roman Reigns return. So with that being said, I feel like this was another great PLE. A lot of us we had very accurate predictions. I feel like it was a lot of what should have happened. And as we now roll into Berlin as the next stop for WWE, it'll be interesting to see where all the storylines develop, how the story continues. And, as episode 12 rolls along on the podcast, how the storylines have developed and where our heads are at for these next predictions. I think hands down the top one will be the Bloodline Civil War now that Roman's back, and like you alluded to, maybe the final boss comes back yet again as Survivor Series approaches in November, pretty sure, but we'll have to see. That's gonna be it for this podcast. We did go a little long because we had 7 matches to cover. However, this was episode 11. Thank you guys so much for watching all the shorts and the support, and we're gonna keep talking about wrestling because it goes 365 days a year, no days off, and the story continues. Mista, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. As always, I'm sure we will be back in just a few weeks with yet another one.
Of course. It's great to also talk about it. Great to watch it too. I think it's cool that this is the first PLE that we watched actually together in the same room. Yeah. Besides WrestleMania, which we were there
in the stands.
But it was kind of true in the cold. We were shivering out there, but it was well worth it. They turned off those lights. Actually, they had turn off the lights chants at SummerSlam too. Apparently, from what I heard, that was funny. But yeah, I guess my final piece too and everything is storylines. Like I said too, they're culminated. Now they're climaxing, but then there's even a higher climax at some point. Who knows? I think I saw something too that Triple H said that like something big is coming based on like what he like knows, something like that. Who knows what that could be? You never know. But definitely still a great time to be a wrestling fan, to get into it if you're a newbie, or to come back if you're a veteran, that type of thing. Yeah, good stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, with that all being said, make sure y'all check out SmackDown. Make sure y'all continue watching, the Story Continues podcast. We appreciate it. Leave a sub, follow, all that good content creator shit. And until the next one, I hope your story continues. You behind this camera. And from your boy Matt RDK and your boy Night Sky, we'll see you in episode 12 of The Story Continues. And I hope you have a great night. Keep watching wrestling. There's plenty of it every week. And we are on the road to Berlin. Peace out. What?